Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. So, good evening, Hotep, the African community and family gathered here or who will be joining us on this stream tonight. I want to welcome all of you and thanking you again for yesterday's show. I want to thank all of us that are settling in today, that we are all fine, we are all healthy, and we're getting together for another session on the Pan-African Daily TV as we continue our path to a new Africa, as we continue to identify the challenges that are affecting us as Africans on the continent mainland or in the diaspora as well. So as we seek, as we uproot these challenges, so we're looking for solutions to address the future and the present as well. So yes, if you're joining from any part of the world, to be on this conversation today, make sure you like, click, and share. Like you invite one another. You understand, like in an African setup, we are never single people. We are a family. So I get into a situation where I gain something or I want to understand something. So I pull along my brother and my sister. That is the spirit of Africa. That is the spirituality beings that we are as the frequency, the first frequency humans on the planet. We are interconnected in everything and we share our dreams, our future together with one another. So I want to welcome all of you on this edition. And today we want to look at the Pan-African Parliament. Pan-African Parliament, what is this? What structure is this? Right? What body is this? Because most often we want to address the concerns or the challenges affecting Africans in Africa, particularly as a continent, but little because of our miseducation, we don't even understand the structures that we have. Like, you know, it is going back to the roots, as we say in Sankofa, to pick it up from there, where we never even left it anyway. You know, like we're going to start from the beginning. Why? Because it has occurred on us as Africans that though we are seeking the solutions to the challenges on the continent, little do we have an idea the structures upon which we are operating. So starting to understand Africa, it is the best way for us to even would understand the problems. Like when we're talking today about the Pan-African Parliament, we have seen in the recent developing some uprisings that were coming out from there. We heard some, you know, some very, I don't know, challenging statement coming up from His Excellency Honorable Julius Malema in the Parliament. You know, these were very, I don't know how I want to say it, very powerful statements that were coming out there, not powerful in a positive sense. And immediately that session occurred, we saw the whole social media, particularly because that's where we're frequenting, you know, people just throwing out that speech. But if you ask, as we went into a survey to ask some of them that were posting and rantings and you know, and commenting, what is the Pan-African Parliament all about? What structure is it? What are its members? What do they even do? What laws govern it? Who are the members? Who is the leadership? Which body is that? What is it? You know, and we realized that 99% of the research that we did out there, Africans were ignorant of what the Pan-African Parliament is all about, right? So it's the same thing like we're talking about Pan-Africanism. Probably we will have to start dealing not only with the symptoms. The symptoms is like what happened in the Pan-African Parliament, but then the root cause of how we even got there or what that that Parliament is all about, little do we know. So we are very happy to have a guest, a prominent guest on the Pan African Daily TV. He's not the first time here. For all of you that follow us and a family to this social media platform, you know that our advocate, our lawyer, Mr. Sarfo Abebrese, is not coming here for the first time. And so he is our legal expert who is actually going to look at situation from a legal perspective. So please be aware that whatever he is going to tell us here, or he is going to educate us here, it's going to be at the point of a legal perspective. Yeah, he's not going to dig into, some cultural ethics or political statements about it. He's going to advise from his point as a lawyer and an advocate. So yes, but before we go to that, I know there's some key words because he's from Ghana. And we're starting this session today by picking up the first keywords. If you saw and received our flyers today, you're going to see that I addressed us 2 keywords that when you get to Ghana, you must know is welcome and thank you. So I want to say akwaba to our guest tonight, which means welcome. And then I also say medase. Medase means thank you. Sorry. Thank you to all of you that are joining. I'm sorry, the Pan African Daily TV today. So we have Akwaba and Medase. Welcome to the show.
Medase, Dr. Tata. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. So I say Akwaba and you say Medase, right?
Yeah. You welcomed me and I thanked you, Medase.
Thank you so much. So, I mean, what part of Akwaba and Medase do you? Where would you hear that if I travel to Ghana? Is it spoken everywhere on the street? Is it what indigenous ethnic groups speak this?
It is the language of the predominant tribe in Ghana, which is the Ashanti tribe.
Okay.
The capital of the Ashanti Kingdom is in Kumasi. And the language is called Twi. Twi is TWI. And in Ghana, you have about 95% of Ghanaians that can speak and understand Twi, even if they are not Ashantis. So almost everywhere in Ghana, you definitely hear everybody telling you Akwaba.
Beautiful.
And then how do you respond?
Medase.
Yes, that's it. That gets you going anywhere in Ghana.
Beautiful. So do they also, is it like a teaching language in primary schools or certificates, or is just a spoken language?
Yeah, it's not taught in the primary schools at the beginning, but it is when you get to the next cycles. Some people actually do Twi or Ashanti language all through to the end of secondary school and all that. I read that as a subject even for my GCE O-level certificate.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will tell you the grade I got in that one.
So it's like if we get to an office in Ghana, we can speak Twi and
yes, you can. It's not the official language. The official language still remains English, but almost anybody that you speak to understand and respond.
Okay, alles klar. Like Germans say, okay, it's all right. Good. So yes, today we want to get a little bit of idea or what the Pan-African Parliament is all about. And you've been seeing the recent happenings. I mean, before even going to what this parliament is all about, what is your impression about what just happened in the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa 2021?
Well, it's sad. The least said about it, the better it is for, the image of Africa. We've all been fighting as Pan-Africanists to put Africa on the global map where it belongs. And we're looking at giving Africa a good image and all that. You remember my organization, the Coalition of Supporters Unions of Africa, COSUA, has been in the throes of affairs, fighting for Pan-Africanism all over the place. So if you witness something like this, where a debacle like that can occur, where one of the most powerful institutions on the continent of Africa, being the Pan-African Parliament, can face up to so much, confusion and all that, to the point where Parliament will have to be dissolved because there's no, way forward, and they cannot reconcile the differences. That is very sad, and that is the least that I can say about it.
Beautiful. And now, if you look at these happenings, it's like, I just want to say, the great writer of Nigeria said, things are falling apart. Do you see the continent like in a kind of a vessel where, all the structures are collapsing to give birth to a new beginning, or what is that? Is it been happening like that before?
Yeah, it looks as if basically what is happening is like people of Africa, people of African descent are now getting interested in how the continent is governed. And because of the upsurge of interest and people taking active part in some of these things, a lot of these things are now coming to the fore. Remember, at the beginning of this year, we were locked up in a close fight, trying to put some sanity at the African Union headquarters itself, where the executive arm of government, being the African Union Commission itself, was also locked up in elections, confusion, where we had a chairperson that was insisting on running unopposed and getting the votes of our 55 heads of states on a silver platter. And we all know people of Africa rose up, and there was a lot of protests and all that. And it hadn't happened before, but that I think shows that now people are getting interested in who rules, who governs, who dictates affairs on this beautiful continent of ours. Initially, it was always just the internal politics of the countries that interested the citizens of the continent. But now we are looking beyond that to say that, okay, what happens, beyond the borders of our continent? And that is a positive sign, because it shows that Pan-Africanism is taking its rightful place, in the body politic of the continent. And that is a good sign. And straight away, if we talk about what happened with the executive arm, we're talking about, the governance structure of the continent as represented by the African Union, and is very much similar to the democratic setup and structures that we have in the various countries. Because in every country, you have the executive headed by a president or a head of state, and then you have the judiciary that is headed by a chief justice, the courts system, and then you have the parliament, the lawmakers. And it's the same system that we have at the African Union level. So we have the African Union Commission, that is the executive arm. We have the judiciary, that is headed by, a chief justice. And then we have the parliament. And in our case, now what we're looking at now is the Pan-African Parliament. The executive, they've had their elections, and there was a lot of furor. But at the end of the day, there was peace, and we have Mr. Faki Musa Mahamat at the helm of affairs for a second 4-year term. And so for the rest, the remaining 4 years, we're not expecting any hula balloon to come up. And then we also had a very, very peaceful elections at the helm of affairs for the judiciary, and we have a new Chief Justice for Africa that has been elected. For the first time, we're having a woman as the head of the African judiciary, and we are very, very positively impacted by that. But now we come to the elections for the for the legislature, and now we have a whole lot of problems, as everybody now knows. And because they couldn't get through with it, Parliament has been suspended once again, and we do not know when they are getting back to get it right. And that is a sad commentary, because the lawmakers themselves could not agree to make the laws, that would govern their tenure and everything. And Parliament had to be dissolved. All the unprintable words that people witnessed on the floor of the Pan-African Parliament, and all the backroom, maneuvers and everything that went on. That is a very sad commentary on, on the, legal structure as we have it with the African Union. But I just wanted people to understand that it is just like any parliament in any other African country. Come to think of it, the Pan-African Parliament, the structure is such that it is our own lawmakers that are in our various countries that are sent over there. Every country has 5 slots. Every African country that has ratified, the 2001 convention has the right to nominate and send 5 lawmakers. So basically, before you can even get there to say that you are going to make laws for Africa, you must be involved in making laws for your country,
Mm-hmm.
And so these are people that know the law, people that have, run campaigns and been elected as members of parliament in their own countries. But if they get to this point and things like this happen, then it is really sad indeed.
You talked about, sorry, the convention 2001 or something. What is that?
Yeah, it is the protocol for the treaty establishing the African Economic Community, relating to the Pan-African Parliament. And that was passed on the 2nd of May 2001. That is the beginning of the history of the Pan-African Parliament. It was passed on that date, but of course, it was in Libya, a city called Sète in Libya, on that date. That is the 2nd day of March 2001, that the treaty was entered into force. But it took a long time before it actually started operating. For 2 years, it had been passed, but it wasn't working. It was in 2003 in Libya. That is the 14th of December 2003, that the law actually came into force for a Pan-African Parliament to be established.
Mm. All right. So, like you said, lawyers of each country is represented. So, like all the member states send in 5 lawyers each, correct?
Yes, yes, and initially the law was saying that at least one of the 5 has to be a lady. There has to be a woman parliamentarian, because we're looking at the gender balance. But as we go on in the course of the program, I'll refer you to the specific amendments and all that. At the moment, as we speak, each country is enjoined by law to increase the women representation to 2 instead of 1. So now the composition of the parliament, I think the last session that we had, it was 229 members, and each country had 2 ladies and 3 men, 2 lady parliamentarians and 3 male parliamentarians. So the gender balance is really, really working now.
So what was the agenda that they met and now is dissolved? What is it that they had to discuss and now they didn't discuss it?
Okay, basically the rumpus was about the election of the president of the Pan-African Parliament, and yeah. But before I even go into that, let me say that I told you about the Sète summit on 14 December 2003, and the following year, the Pan-African Parliament adopted its own set of rules. That was done on the 21st of September 2004. That is when the parliamentary rules themselves came into effect to now govern, the Pan-African Parliament with their own rules and procedures. And that was done in accordance with Article 12 of the AU Protocol, and there has been amendments, it came into effect, as I said, on the 21st September 2004. The first amendment came in October 2011, and then we had May 2017. That is where Article 93. I'll be mentioning a lot of that. Which deals with amendments of the rules of the Pan-African Parliament came into effect, and since that time, we've had a lot of ups and downs going back and forth on all these things. So this time, this parliament has been, each parliament session is for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the 3 years, they have to elect a new president of the session, of the new session, and 4 vice presidents. And the idea, I believe, was for the founding fathers, believing in African unity and equal representation, felt that since we have 5 regions for Africa, which I think we all know, North, South, East, West, Central. Okay, so we elect a president, and then we elect 4 vice presidents that are representing the 4 other regions. Of course, we all know that you cannot have, for example, the president coming from North Africa and then another vice president also coming from North Africa. It has to be spread. So that was a protocol that was set for us in June 2017, and that has been operating. So at the end of the last 3 years session, which ended, on 9th of May 2021, just a few weeks ago, a new parliament was supposed, a group was supposed to be ushered in, to take over for the next 3 years. And that is where the confusion started, because the election that was supposed to be run, fell into a lot of, legal debates and everything, because the current acting president from Zimbabwe was also running as a candidate for the presidency. And that is where a lot of concerns were raised, and some of the members felt that he first has to step down. If he is trying to run for presidency for the next 3 years, he first has to step down and abdicate and all that. And there were counter arguments from all sides. But basically, the main issue that came up was as to whether the adoption of the rules concerning the rotational, representation should be, done now, or it has to be done later. And the background to that is this: ever since 2001, that the protocol was adopted, as I've already said, 2 regions of Africa have never ascended to the presidency. Okay, it has been 2 times Central Africa has ascended to the presidency. Okay, and then West Africa has 1 slot, and then East Africa has 1 slot. North Africa has never enjoyed the presidency of the Pan-African Parliament, and so is Southern Africa. Now, Southern Africa, as you would recall, has 16 members, in terms of country, national membership. So they hold the biggest chunk of membership for the parliament. If you talk about 16 countries times 5, my mathematics was very bad in school. That means you're talking about, a huge number. And they think that, 1, they are the biggest bloc in terms of the number of nations. Okay, and 2, the Pan-African Parliament is being hosted on Southern African soil. It is at Midrand in Johannesburg in South Africa, and they think that at least if a South African will not emerge to be, the leader, at least a Southern Africa, a SADC, candidate should be given the chance now. So they were pushing the issue of the rotational leadership to say that, well, Central, you've had your chance. You've done it twice. Eastern, you've done it once. Western, you've done it once. We think that now is the turn of SADC. And for some reason, North Africa, that has also been starved of that leadership role, threw their weight behind Southern Africa to say that, yes, we want the rotational system to work. And that is what created the whole, furore that we had. And as time goes on, maybe we'll be honing in on the issues and the legalities that came up.
Why must they vote? Isn't it something like you say rotational? Like, all right, they just set a calendar for this 3 years it is East Africa, next 3 years it is South or West. Why did it come that they have to vote each time? In the case where time Central Africa.
You know, the principle of equal representation and all that democratic rule, it cuts through all the three arms of the continent's governance. You remember the African Union Commission itself, the elections that came up, in February, in which a lot of us had a lot to say. We had a sitting African Union chairperson that ran unopposed, and yet the heads of states, the 55 heads of states, still had to vote because the law says that you still, even if you are running unopposed, you still require 2/3 majority endorsement from the heads of states before you can sit for another 4 years as the leader. So that is why the voting happened. At the Supreme Court, the Court of Africa, the same voting principle was applied, and we had a new Chief Justice that was elected. So over here at the Pan-African Parliament, we still had to go through, a democratic, demonstration of voting. And the voting, if I understand clearly, what Malema and his SADC people were talking about, the voting that they were talking about, even though they were pushing for the rotational, if they want to rotate, it means that we have to put up a candidate, for the region of Africa that, is now their turn to rule. But there will still need to be voting for that candidate, because if it is the turn of SADC, SADC can put up a candidate from Zimbabwe, and they can put up a candidate from South Africa. They can put up a candidate from Botswana. All the 16 SADC regions can put up individual candidates. You understand? For one of them to be voted for. So the fact that it is rotational, and the issue of rotational is very, very dicey because we have two very sharp views, positions concerning rotational. The other regions are saying that even the laws, that come in for the rotational system to be applied have not even been ratified. And even if they are ratified, they have to be amended in accordance with, Article 93, of the AU Charter relating to the Pan-African Parliament. And that hasn't been done. So they were saying that even if you want the rotational to be implemented, it is not today that we are here sitting, we have to do the voting tomorrow, and then now you come and tell us that we have to rotate because these other regions have enjoyed it and we want SADC now to come up. They are saying that SADC should have done that long ago, not on the day of election. Okay, and in that sense, they have, some amount, I don't want to be seen to be taking side, but legally, the law actually, Article 93, 3 actually specifies that even if you succeed in making that amendment, it should take effect from the next parliament, the next sitting of parliament, not this very one that is sitting right now. So that was the argument that was being put forward by the other regions to say that, okay, everybody believes that the rotational system is good. You are telling us that we've enjoyed all the benefits. You haven't enjoyed it before. We understand. But please, let's get through with this election as it stands so that the next election in 3 years, you put in the amendments to the rules, and then they have the time would elapse for the amendments to take effect. And then we will look at the rotational one. So it is just a question of when should the rotational system actually kick in? As the SADC and the Northern Africans wanted it to take immediate effect, so So in a sense, it was going to be like, okay, Southern Africa has put forward the Zimbabwean candidate. So, I mean, no other region should put up, contesting candidates because it is our time. And the other parties are saying, if you wanted to do that, you should have put in, this in for the amendment long ago and ratified it and let it be in effect by now. But even now, if we agree that, okay, it should be rotational, it's going to take effect in 3 years, not now. So that is my lawyer's understanding of the foundation of the whole rumpus that occurred. And unfortunately, they could not resolve it, and the parliament cannot sit, and it's not something that is very good for Africa. We have a lot of parliamentarians that travel from several parts of Africa, 5 from each region, and they went in there and the job wasn't done, and they have to go back to their countries, and nobody knows when the rumpus is going to be resolved for them to get back to work.
Wow. Okay. Do they discuss things in the parliament like this in terms of contracts, foreign contracts, than the AU? What is it that they discuss?
Okay, basically,
how an agenda looks like.
Good. Let me take you through what the functions of the African Union Parliament, is supposed to be. Okay. As I said, PAP members have to be, designated by the legislatures of their own member states, and they come together, basically to make laws and to govern Africa from the legislative perspective, So the law has set a clear mandate for them as to what they can do and what they have to do, So right now, if you go to the rules, the protocol that established this, and of course that was also established in Abuja, Nigeria, for the Pan-African Parliament. The first of it is that the Parliament has to facilitate and oversee the implementation of AU policies, objectives and programs. That is one. And then they have to see to the promotion of human rights and consolidating democratic institutions, and culture and good governance in the member states, of course, transparency and the rule of law and all that, by all AU organs. Through the member states and everything, that has to do with good governance, democracy and everything. And of course, institutions for culture and all that, they have to oversee that. And then also, they have to take part in participating in creating awareness among the peoples of Africa on the AU's objectives, policy aims and programs, strengthening of continental solidarity, that is the African unity. They have to, make laws and rules that strengthen that, and cooperation and development, promotion of peace, security, and stability, and pursuit of a common economic recovery agenda, and strategy. That was recently implemented by setting up of the African Free Trade Center in Ghana, which is a plus, in the history of the African Union. And they also have to contribute, to the harmonization and coordination of the member states, legislatures. So they are ruling all over for Africa in terms of making laws, and they also have to contribute to individual member countries, the laws that they also make, oversee them, and then try, and if, some countries are lacking or not backing up with these principles of, democracy and everything, the Pan-African Parliament oversees that. And then they also have to be seen to be promoting, the coordination of the policies and measures and programs of the activities, especially the REGs and the Millennium Development Goals of the African Union, they have to prepare and adopt the budget in tandem with the rules of procedure. And then they have to be, I will put that one last, they have to make recommendations on the AU budget. And then lastly, they have to elect or see to the election of its bureau members. And that is where, we are now. In performance of that function to elect the bureau members, that is where we are now, and that is where we have the confusion, and that is where I would say the PAP has led the continent down.
We have conflicts on the continent.
Yes.
We have individual human rights abuses. We have elections rigging. We have incarcerations on every part that you can think about. For instance, we're talking about the conflicts in Central African region. I mean, we have African Union's partnership with EU and the others, and like you're talking about the budget and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do they sit and look at all these things?
Yes, they do. They do. When Parliament is in session, unfortunately for us, this Parliament has been the most traumatized of all, because they've had a lot of problems. A lot of people don't know, but we had a situation where, one of the things through which my organization and other Pan-Africanists went up in arms against the sitting African Union chairperson, Mr. Faki Musa Mahamat, is the fact that he even, as the AU chair, kind of unduly interfered, with this parliament's administration and all that, getting the president fired, getting the clerk of parliament to take over as the leader of parliament, and a whole lot of things that happened there that were not right. They have been traumatized by a lot of events, and last of all is the COVID pandemic. For almost 2 years now, they've not been able to sit because of the COVID pandemic. And if you look at the tenure, if you look at Article 7.2 of the rules of procedure for Parliament, it says that you have a 3-year tenure, and it starts from the day on which you take the oath of office, and make a solemn declaration that that is the day you are sworn in as a member of Parliament. Okay, you are there for 3 years. Now, if 2 of the 3 years all these things happen, and you've not even sat for even one session, okay, and all of a sudden the 3 years are up, by the calendar year 9th of May 2021, your tenure is ended. Okay, right. and then you are being told that, well, that is the law, and the law hasn't been amended. So even if, the leadership crisis that came in, that saw the parliament being taken over by the clerk, even all those things about COVID and all that, the time is time. 9th of May, you have to vacate your seat. That was the argument of let me say the majority, because that was 3 blocks, West, Central and East, saying that. And then North and SADC are saying that, can't we even take a look at all these intervening circumstances and know that, yes, the law says this, but if all these things have happened and for 2 years of COVID, we've not sat, and we need to, can't we even just amend the rules, or, allow common sense to say that, look, let's recognize all that, and let's not say that once 9th of May, the calendar turned on the 9th of May, all of us, we are no longer members of this parliament. We still have a say, we are still in charge, and we want the right thing to be done, and we want the rotational system to be done. So it is a way of looking at it, from the legal perspective. Does it really apply to wisdom to say that a continent in crisis that has gone through all these challenges for the 3 years that they are supposed to work, they couldn't do it, And here, maybe from a personal perspective, let me make this comment that I saw a situation where the majority, in terms of the 3 regions, played the first one, on the minority, in the sense that from the article that I've quoted, Article 7.2, that says that once you are sworn in and you take the oath of office, your term has started. What happened was that they accepted, or maybe they tricked their way to get the sitting, acting president, from Zimbabwe to swear them in, and they took the oath of office on that very day. He swore them in, they accepted that he swears them in. The moment he swore them in, they come back to say, okay, we have taken the oath of office under Article 7.2. So now we are legitimately in power. But you, that swore us in, what is your authority to be our leader as a president and usher us into elections? So step down. And those are some of the things that, I mean, the games that we lawyers play, and it was a bit funny the way it was played out. And that was where Malema and others were telling them that if you accepted for the man to swear you in, and you took the oath of office under his hand, and then as soon as he swears you in, you come and question his legitimacy to lead the house, then that's marks of, I don't want to, repeat Malema's words, but, so just for us to understand the debacle and the ramifications that went into it. But as I said, unfortunately, they couldn't get a consensus to resolve the issues, and Parliament had to be, dissolved, and nothing much has happened. We hope that, they will get back, put heads together, just for them to understand that the destiny of this continent is in their hands, because they are the lawmakers, and they have to continue to make the good laws that protect us. All the 10 or so, functions and objectives of the Pan-African Parliament, they are very, very important, and they have to try and do that and get Pan-Africanism and African dignity back in their hands.
Wow. I don't know. I don't know whether it's because it's law, or it's because it is a little bit kind of, it's heavy for someone to even understand, because like for the first time, I think most people are just hearing this as if nothing had been happening. Like, so we had a parliament. Africa has a parliament like this.
Yes.
Can you just maybe make a flashback of one sitting and one amendment that they made that came out that has impacted the African continent? Maybe just one, for example.
Yeah, I would refer to the creation, of the permanent committees. That was a very good, a very good thing that emanated from the Pan-African Parliament. At the moment, the Parliament is not just there to make laws, but we have, I think, 10 or 11 permanent committees that look at various other aspects of national law, national life as a continent. We have the Committee on Education, Culture, Tourism, and Human Resources. And many people don't know about that. But, we have about 30 members of Parliament that form that committee that look into, Pan-Africanism in terms of our education, culture, tourism, and human resources. There are many of them, about 10 of them. I can run through them quickly. We have a Committee on Cooperation, International Relations, and conflict resolution, for example. That committee is also there. Another 30 membership committee. And these are people coming from various countries in their various legislatures and sitting together to look into these things for Africa. We have the Committee on Gender, and I think you'll be interested in that.
No,
We have a committee.
I'm not
We have a
interested. I'm
committee.
interested.
We have a
Sorry, I'm
committee on
interested.
gender. Hello.
Go ahead. I'm interested. Maybe I'll be interested in the committee, in the Commission of Education.
Okay, so I've talked about that. Education goes with culture and tourism and human resources is in place. But we also have the Committee on Gender, Family, Youth, and People with Disabilities. That committee is also there. We also have the Committee on Monetary and Financial Affairs. You know, that is also there. And so many of them. We have Trade, Customs, Immigration Matters Committee. We have the Committee on Health, Labor, and Social Affairs. We have the Committee on Transport, Industry, Communications, Energy, and Science and Technology. We have the Committee on Rules and Privileges and Discipline. We have the Committee on Justice and Human Rights. That is where my interest is, you know, and on and on and on. We have rural economy, agriculture, natural resources, and then, I mean, the list goes on. So these are things that they've been doing in the background that the public don't see, you know, but every time they go, these committees sit, even when the plenary sessions are over and they go back to their respective countries, they are still coordinating with the other members of these committees. And I would say that they've been doing a lot of good work, you know, behind the scenes to keep Africa, you know, going. And it will be sad that given COVID and all that, and now their own situation of agreeing to disagree, you know, is keeping Africa bereft of the benefits of these committees and their functions, you know, for the continent. So my prayer is that I believe, and once again, this is where we will keep saying it and saying it. If we had the kind of leadership at the AU Commission that we have always been clamoring for, this is where the AU Commission leadership itself has to step in and get this resolved, because it's not good for the continent, for, you know, our parliamentary arm, our legislative arm, to be fighting among themselves to the point where they cannot agree on a matter, and because of that, parliament has to be dissolved. It doesn't work well for the continent of Africa and our, you know, democratic aspirations as a people.
All right, now, so who would step in, the judiciary or the executive?
You see, there are three arms of government, but we all know when you know, things got to a crunch, we saw the chairman of the African Union Commission, Mr. Faki Musa Mahamat, stepping in, but he did it his own way. He just got the president fired and appointed, you know, the clerk. The clerk of parliament is a worker. He's an employee, you know. But like the way we all know Faki to be doing his things. I mean, he fired the African Union ambassador to the United States, and everybody went up in arms against him, but he stuck to his grounds. You know, he keeps firing left, right, center. But it is where we want him to sit up and say, okay, now I'm taking the responsibility to get the parliament back to work. That is what a leader should be doing. That is what we haven't heard him making one comment about what has happened in Midrand in South Africa. And those are the things that when he does the right things, we commend him. You know, we do. But when things like this are happening and you are the leader that the 55 heads of states have elected you and put the power of administering the African Union and the whole continent into your hands, this is where we want you to step up and let's see, you know, what you have for the continent. And I believe that if he can take that initiative again, you know, and get, you know, PAP reconvened. And of course, before they do that, I believe that they should have a lot of consensus building, you know, in the various countries with the heads of states, and also with the leaders of parliament in the various countries. You know, every country has its own, you know, legislative body. In Ghana, we say the Speaker of Parliament. He controls all the parliamentarians. The 5 members that were nominated to go and represent Ghana, for example, at the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa, he has some kind of oversight relationship with them. So these are the leaders that you need to bring together. The various speakers of parliament in the various countries, they can talk to their people. Let's find some kind of consensus. And to say that, look, we can have a roadmap and get these differences sorted. If the people, the various caucuses that have not had representation, say that, well, every time it is you, now let us also have a slice of the continental cake. And now we also want to push our people to be, there has to be a way for them to resolve, because if you look at both sides, basically they all have grounds for sticking to their respective positions. I was expecting that Malema will join us, that Julius Malema will join us in this session. I'm looking forward to having, for us to have him on one of these platforms for us to talk. And I know that on your show, he will tone down a little bit and we can talk, to ourselves. But, they have to let the passion, the anger and all that tone down for the sake of the continent. Let's find a way through and let all sides be satisfied. Because if the Parliament of Africa cannot agree to their own laws, to make laws even for their own, the regulation of their own elections, then that's another Ghanaian. They say that I will teach you when you come to Ghana. Then
now teach our audience. We're all learning Ghana here.
Literally it means then did we go or did we come? If Parliament of Africa cannot get this resolved in their own, bureau, then did we go or did we come? That is the question for all of us to,
did this
address.
ever happen anytime, or is the first time that is happening?
This is the first time this rampus is happening. And that is where, the majority side, the 3 regions, seem to have a case. They are saying that, look, you guys are saying that the rotational system was put in place. Their argument is that it's not being ratified. The rotational system has not been ratified. But even if we are saying that we accept it, why is it that all this while you sat on your rights? You want rotational system. And Central Africa has taken it twice for 6 years. You allowed it. West Africa got it for 3 years. Eastern Africa got it for 3 years. All this time you were sitting, aloof. And you were just satisfied getting the vice presidential position. Because by law, the president is assisted by 4 vice presidents at the Pan-African Parliament. Okay. So if the president is elected from, let's say, Central Africa, then we have 4 vice presidents from the 4 other regions. And the election votes that they get is what determines who is the first vice president or the second vice or the third vice and the 4th vice. But we have to have 5 leaders. Okay. And all this while, SADC, you have enjoyed some of the vice presidential positions and you have been okay with that. It's a presidency that you never got. So if you sit on your rights and you have not put in the debates and everything to get the law changed or amended or whatever, and then on the day of elections, you come and say that the thing is it has to be rotational. So let's rotate right now. So basically, to answer your question, nobody had raised that issue of the fact that the rotational system has been abandoned. It's not been implemented. It's never happened because in the past, everybody is satisfied with what they get. It is just this year that they are saying that, hey, we need to look at the rotational system, and it is our turn as SADC to head the PAP. And the others are saying, where were you all this while? Why now? So yeah, so both sides seem to have, you know, something in their armor, and that is why the fight raged so fiercely to the point where they had to dissolve without coming to any conclusion.
You talked about the positive achievements like the building of the forming of the commissions, of the individual commissions, which I think is a laudable work to do. I mean, organization and structure is always the one of the most difficult in planning a parliament like that. Now, Uganda or Zimbabwe has been on U.S. sanctions for years. Do they ever discuss something like that? If Zimbabwe is chair, for instance, do they bring an external
Um,
issue like that? No.
for the rampers that occurred, earlier this month that we're talking about, I cannot recollect any point where anybody said, by you Zimbabwe, you are under international sanctions, so you cannot be our leader. No, that point never came up. What they were saying against him, the Zimbabwean vice president that was running for president, was that, look, you have been our vice president to usher us into these things. Now your term is over. Step down, and especially now that you are running for the presidency itself, you cannot be the referee in the match that you yourself, you are also, a player. So please step down and let's get through the elections, because you're on the ticket as a presidential candidate. But now your term as vice president has elapsed, so step down before we go into. I don't think anybody used the issue of the status of Zimbabwe as a country under so many sanctions, outside of Africa as the reason why, the president couldn't be in office, But again, as I mentioned, that is where the counter argument also came. That if you know that the man is no longer the vice president or the president of the commission, come 9th of May, because that was the deadline. If you know that, then how come he swears you in after 9th of May and you accept the swearing in? Then in that case, you have also abdicated, on your right to protest that a guy, doesn't have the local standard, to swear you in. So it's a whole lot of arguments and counter arguments from all the sides. And as I said, we want truth to prevail. I don't think it is fair for us to say that this side won or that side won. They have to accept, what I believe to be very good, discussions that are going on behind the scenes to get them to reconvene and to agree, to move for the betterment of the continent of Africa and our democratic aspirations that the citizens of the continent have.
Thank you very much. But I still don't get. This is something I don't know whether maybe I'm not really getting the point. Now you convene a parliament, and on a parliament you have an agenda of that parliament, and then you get to the parliament, you talk about something as swearing in. What about the agenda? I mean, like if it doesn't convene, we have 3 years to meet. We have conflicts on the continent. We have the Amazonian conflict. We have Mali that is coming up. We have a lot of things. Silencing of the gun is one of the aspirations of African Union. Now, would they come and just argue and exchange and just go and forget about the challenges that they ought to hold in that parliament?
Yeah, you see, first of all, before you address those challenges, the agenda is there for them for the next 3 years. But if Correct. They cannot even convene the bureau, to sit as parliamentarians and tackle all the various issues that are ahead of them, then once the issue of legitimacy is raised, you cannot even put forward, those issues for Parliament to look at, because Parliament itself is not in sitting. Parliament itself is not convened legitimately according to they themselves. So yes, we are having all these challenges, but here we are. They are not being addressed because Parliament is not in session. And because they themselves agree to disagree to be in session, they are not in session. And that is what is so sad. Mali is happening, as you said, many, many other issues are happening all over the continent. Very, very sad indeed. But, here is a case where because they couldn't agree to maybe some compromise here and there from one side or the other could have gotten us, getting underway. But because they couldn't agree, here we are, those issues cannot be addressed because those issues have to be addressed by a parliament that is properly and legitimately in session.
The decision of the African Union Commission chair to elect the clerk. What about that? I mean, he has the powers to say, I fire the president. He takes the decision. Why? So why did that not like a provisory solution to getting it sit down? They were just like, no, we can't go even with that decision.
Yeah. And I really don't want to go too much into Faki Mahamat's style of administration as the AU chair. But many of us know the way he does his things. Sometimes you would want him to do things in a better way, as the ruler of Africa. But he has his own style, and sometimes he does things his own way. I mean, we can go on talking and talking and talking about, how he goes about getting all these things done. I mean, if you look at a situation where, he gets, a commissioner of Africa fired, and he puts his own blood brother there, as the AU head of cybersecurity and all that. You look at the Arikana case, you look at, a whole lot of things. I mean, that is Faki style. I mean, where he comes from and how he wants to rule is how he's ruling. Unfortunately, 51 heads of state saw that as, a very good way of ruling Africa, and they gave him their votes, much the chagrin of the rest of us. So let's wait and see what Faki says and does now. Maybe this time he will stand up to the test and get this resolved in the PAP without just getting up and saying, okay, I'm the AU chair, I fired this one, and I fired that one, and I fired that one. I mean, let's see how it pans out. We hope it will all work out for the good of the continent of Africa.
We all hope so too. But it was nice to even understand the structure and the members. You said there are 229 members. And now we have some kind of like a balance, 2 ladies and 3 male from each country representing in the judiciary, and the amendments and the convention. So, and the different commissions. Like I said, I'm interested in the education commission, for instance, of course, all. Do you have an idea when that commission meets, what they talk about? Do they talk about the curriculum of the education system on the continent? Do they take into aspects like you talk about Pan-Africanism, African ancient history, our culture? Do they take into consideration that we had a culture, our spirituality, and that when we say they sit and talk in this culture, education, tourism, what are the aspects that this commission looks like and that reflects Pan-Africanism or Africanness?
Well, all the 10 commissions are supposed to do their best, in their respective, targets that are set for them. And I would want to believe that they are up to the task, and that is why they were selected from among their peers, to form that 30-member committee to look into that. And the good thing, as I said, is that even when Parliament is not sitting, even when they are in their respective countries, I want to believe that they are always consulting each other, building consensus, exchanging ideas, and getting things done, so that when Parliament convenes, they are able to table something, for adoption by the bureau, the full bureau of, all the members. So I would want to believe that not just the Bureau for, education and all that, but all the rest, even now that they are not in session, are still, because I mean, if you are a Pan-Africanist, if you are a member of parliament in a country, you are already burning. That is what I believe, that you already should be burning with that desire to get Africa to where it has to be. And so, with or without you being in session in Midrand in South Africa, I believe that when you wake up, that is what you're thinking of, how to make the continent better. And when you wake up, that is what you're considering, how to, implement policies that will make things work, better for the continent. And
And
I would want to believe that that's exactly what they are doing.
anyway, that's a legal perspective, and lawyers, you would argue like that. Nobody's holding us accountable that they don't have the goodwill. What I just wanted was like, if you have a commission like on education like that, have they ever looked, if we're talking about cultural aspect of the continent, and we know that the AU actually has adopted Swahili as the unit or the political language of that. Is there any way that that commission looks to push that agenda to say Swahili should be the unique language, a cultural product of Africa in terms of education and language? Those are just, but the political will to just say yes if you're elected and then it means you mean good. It's yeah, it's a lawyer. Yeah, but we, like I'm still saying, I needed really some concrete, and I think that's where we will have to get Honorable Julius Malema or one of the members of this commission to actually educate us. Like, what does the agenda in this commissions looks like when they meet? What do they table to say, okay, this is the challenge, this is where we're getting to. Now, you talked about the 55 member state. I guess the SID region is not yet a member. Am I correct?
No, the sixth region is not yet a member. The sixth
Okay.
region, which comprises the diaspora,
Yes.
technically, is still not a member of the African Union. I mean, uh, in the way that you would want it to be. I believe and I do hope that that process will be, quickened for them to also have representation, even at the AU. I mean, commission itself in Addis Ababa. So that when we are having the AU summit, they will have full representation. When we are voting, to elect an AU chairman, they should also have a vote, But so far, for now, with the situation we have is what it is now. They didn't take part in the elections of Faki Musa Mahamat as the AU chairperson. Is the 55 heads of states that were called upon to vote for, dissented to the unopposed candidature of the chairperson. So 51 voted, and that is it. So in the same way, the African court, is the same way. They are not represented officially, and the AU Parliament too, they are not represented officially yet.
What do you think is the challenge in actually integrating the SID region? I mean, you are a consultant and an insider into it. Where is the problem? Why are things so slow? Of course, we know that it is official, but what is lacking?
I think there should be more of a political will to make it happen. It is one thing saying, oh, this is nice for the continent of Africa. We need integration. We want the Africans in the diaspora to be part of us and all that. I mean, go through all those long and nice speeches. And it is another thing having the political will that will push, for that to happen. And that's one of the things, the reasons why, the exit or the firing, I mean, if I want to be blunt, of Her Excellency Arikana Chiombo Rikwao, the ex-African Union ambassador to, to the United States of America. That is one of the things that saddens some of us about her exit, because everybody knows her as a Pan-Africanist in the sense of the diaspora inclusion. If she had been, holding her position or maybe holding a higher position in the African Union by now. She is one person that we know has that political will and would have pushed beyond her limits to get it done and implemented, in good time. Yeah. So that's an example that I can give you. It's the lack of the political will. If we have it, we push for it and it happens. But, well, even now, with her being out of the AU Commission itself, she's still doing a lot.
It's freezing.
In the diaspora, for continental inclusion.
All right. Oh. Okay. We have also, I don't know, the structure of the ADF, the African Diaspora Forum, and it's also a wing of the African Union. And it's, this one of Dr. Erica Burnett in Ghana. What role is that function in terms of the integration of the diaspora? I'm saying legal perspective anyway.
Yeah, from the legal perspective, I must admit that I've not, honed into the legalities of their operations and all that. But it is very refreshing that the issue of, African integration is being widely, pursued on a lot of fronts in terms of bringing the diaspora to Africa. Many countries are launching, the homecoming events here and there, and a lot of NGOs, a lot of, humanitarian groups, a lot of Pan-Africanist groups are all waking up to that, that reality. And it's a refreshing thing because all over the continent, we see all these efforts being made. Again, let the AU Commission itself stand up and say, these are the actions behind our words. We want it to happen. And so we are going the extra mile and getting it done. And I think that if we can see that happening within the next 4 years of Mr. Faki Musa Mahamat's tenure as AU Commission chairperson, that will be a big plus and a big feather in his cap. And we will all applaud him for that.
Correct. But now, do you see something coming? I don't think it is going to be a negotiation that would be dependable of whether somebody accepts or not. The wind of change is taking the diaspora, whether it is not an initiative, individuals are relocating to the continent. Now, when I say it is not even going to be dependable whether it is a political will or not, but it is really going to be a challenge for the leadership because, if the diaspora would come home, what eventually would happen? They're coming on they have the interest to come home. They have the interest, they are part and parcel of the continent. And so do you think that the more they come home, they would have to be patient enough to wait for someone to recognize them?
Well, even without them being recognized officially as being part of the AU system, we're having a situation where they are still contributing very, very substantially, to the economies, to the culture, tourism, and everything of Africa. And I believe that if they do continue the way they are doing, there will be a compelling situation for them to be, very much integrated into the system in Africa, because the force with which, they come in, it's not something anybody can withstand and tell them, look, keep waiting, and that, maybe when we have a more, accommodating leader, then we bring you in. I think the force with which they are coming will itself, as you said, mount to a point where nobody can stop it from happening. It's just a matter of time, and it is going to happen because they are part of us. They were part of us before they were taken away, and they've continued to be part of us even after being taken away. And now that they relocating to, you know, their sources, you know, nobody can stop it. We should embrace it and welcome them with open arms, and we should encourage, you know, all those fora that have been created all over the place, you know, for, I mean, these diasporans to, you know, relocate and link up with Africans, you know, should continue and be supported. It is going to happen.
Thank you very much. I think these are all considerations that we're looking forward to say it is not a way forward to ignore. Like you talked about that we have the indigenous diaspora now,
Yeah.
put it in that term, and then we have the African migrant diaspora, and these are
Yeah.
all contributors to the economy and in a very huge way. Now it is like, okay, are you interested in my money and not interested in me? You know, that kind of a way. And so
Exactly.
we are seeing one of the biggest challenges. I mean, I'm taking it from the questions and the reflections and the researches that we're doing, that the diaspora is even going to be one of the challenges to take over Africa. It's not even China, what we're seeing, or other European entities. And if the government and if the leadership of Africa is not aware of this enough, I think the biggest challenge or the handbrakes that they will have to deal with is its diaspora itself.
Sure.
Do you anticipate that in any kind?
Perfectly. Perfectly. The rate at which the Pan-Africanism spirit is spreading amongst, I mean, diasporians, African diasporians, I think that is a very positive development that can, you know, happen, that can take place, you know, and it is to the good of the continent. So why not?
Absolutely, to the good of the continent. That's what I wanted to hear. It's not about a kind of a war that we're saying. It's about a kind of taking over the responsibility of the economic, cultural, and spiritual development of the African and the African continent as a whole. And of course, giving some kind of sanctuary to the leadership of the continent. Why not? Why not? That's the question. So
Yeah.
it has been a wonderful, wonderful session here. We know that there are a lot of challenges, and we know that there are a lot of setbacks, particularly like you were talking in terms of the African Parliament, the Pan-African Parliament. And what would you say, for instance, you addressing us all, the diaspora, the community, the Africans? What is it that you would recommend? Should we be so
Well,
patient and wait until another session? I mean, what is the solution? I mean, as a matter of fact, what is the next step? You're all lawyers.
whatever,
It is a
whatever
parliament
it
that
takes.
is made up of lawyers. You are an organization of the legal body. Now, what would you say? This is what is to be done now.
Whatever that needs to be done for Parliament to reconvene ASAP has to be done. There's nothing that should hold us back. With all of us, I mean, and this behoves on all Africans, not just the lawyers, everybody that has Africa at heart should, you know, I mean, we should all rally together to take whatever steps that are necessary for our Pan-African Parliament to be back in office in the Bureau and for them to be functioning. It's three arms of government. Two of them are functioning. They've both had successful elections this year. The one that has the most, you know, of our citizens, five parliamentarians and representatives from each country is not a small number. And they have a huge, you know, contribution to make to the development of the continent of Africa. So whatever it takes for them to get back to work and work assiduously for Pan-Africanism and African unity and everything that they represent, we should not spare any effort to get that done. That is the final message that I think I would like to give to, and it goes to all of us. You know, the more we make our voices heard, you know, even in the respective African parliaments in our various countries, to let them know that we need them to, you know, regroup and get together and get back, you know, in mid-round and get to the agenda of helping Africa go through all these difficult times. They should make that effort, and they should make those sacrifices, you know, that will give them, you know, that consensus to be able to work together.
All right. I will just open up the lines and take take some few recommendations or some calls coming in. So you take a break also. And while in the meantime, we announce some upcoming programs that we would be hosting and even the way forward to this. But of course, we're also looking forward to get Honorable Julius Malema. I know it's a tough time out there, trying to put structures and necessities out, and most of that leadership is still actually ignorant of the potential and the opportunities of the diaspora, which I find it so sad. And we are thanking His Excellency Dr. Arikana Shikomborikoa for putting up the ADDI. And this structure we're looking is the structure that would be the spoke structure actually for Africa and for the diaspora. That is the voices of the diaspora. And we on the Pan-African Daily TV, we're looking actually to put out a structure that would be a media voice connecting the mainland and the diaspora. Why not? And with different operations on the continent. Why is it very important? It's very important because all these agendas, like we say, we keep talking about the symptoms. Now we're talking about a symptom of something that happened in the parliament, and now we didn't go into that root cause. And you being here today from a legal personality, because that's what the parliament is all about, to give us a kind of an education of what it is. You're not here to take any side or to influence anything, but to just lecture us on how these things function. Now, tomorrow when we go out, we know what the Pan-African Parliament is all about, what its responsibilities are, what are they doing, even apart from, meeting once in 3 years. They sit back in the different commissions and the countries and actually work on the way forward. I think it is not also an ignorant to say the country or the continent is actually the way it is, even though we're having our challenges, but we are experiencing and enjoying that peace and tranquility in some regions, apart from the regions that are still affected. It is all in all what we would say is not the kind of chaos, taking into consideration its history, taking into consideration the infiltrators on the continent and the different types of unnecessary agendas. I don't even think the work of the AU Commission should be something that someone would even cherish and want to be there. I can imagine the challenges that that is going on, isn't it?
Exactly. It's not an easy thing. That is why sometimes we try to tone down on some of the excesses that we see around. But maybe in conclusion, I'm looking at, the rules also permit Pan-African Parliament to make emergency, convene for emergency sessions. And this is, I think that is the Article 28, Article 28 of the rules that permit them to make emergency sessions, quite aside of the normal sessions that are now, off. I think they can call an emergency session and look at, because there's an emergency, there's an extraordinary situation where they can go up and look at it and say that, okay, let the extraordinary caucus sit down and look at what has happened to us and find a way out. But as you said, you're right. It's not an easy thing to govern even one nation of Africa, even one, region or state in one nation of Africa. It's not easy. So we understand why sometimes some of these things, happen on the continental scale. But once again, once you get elected, you put yourself up to be elected as a parliamentarian in your country, and then you are nominated to go and serve on the Pan-African Parliament from your country, and you accept that responsibility, then it behoves on you to live up to that responsibility. It's not easy, but they are up to the task, and they have to prove and show to us that they are up to the task and they can get over this one as well.
Okay. Thank you so very much. been a pleasure to have you here, our
The
able
pleasure is mine too.
teacher, and we always will still be having you here on the structure of the AU, because we're really having some kind of challenges getting into that structure. It's just about education and teaching ourselves again, about what our continent is all about, what these structures are, what are the arms that are governing it, and then to see what is lacking. We know that the political, or the political structure of the continent has hijacked the kingdoms and the traditions and the customs, and this is what we are looking forward in a Pan-African state, to have that balance, or continent and a race of people. So thank you so very much. I like your how do I say it again? Mandase. Mandase.
Medase.
Mandase.
Mesome Dawase, me too. I thank you very, very much. And I've been happy sharing the past hour with you. And it is always a pleasure talking about Africa and Pan-Africanism. That is what we live for. That is what we hope for. So I'm only a call away anytime you need us to come back together, especially if we can do another session with Madame Arikana and Julius Malema. That will be splendid. Thanks very much, and greetings to all of your people, all of your viewers all over the world. Thanks very much, Dr. Tata.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, our lawyer. Yes, we look forward to that. We look forward to getting all of you again on the panel to discuss the most critical powerhouse of the continent, our Africa Union. Yes. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
see us very soon. Good. I like to thank the viewers, the followers, the family of Pan African Daily TV here, and yes, we've been having a lot of sessions that have been very important. Like some of the highlights that we had in the past weeks or months have been very instrumental to the way forward, and it has given us, even us from the Pan African Daily TV, the team and the followers, the chatters, the fans, really this energy that we need. I mean, we had the session with Professor James Small, Obati Shaka, Reverend Shark, Phillips, Matthew on the first frequency. We also had the session with King Maponga, again doing this tie on this very Africa Union with Professor James Small. And these are all sessions that have actually pushed the spirit of Pan-Africanism that we are seeing. I mean, we've had a lot of people just sky up. The subscriber list is growing every day exponentially. Even when we are off or on our break days, we still see people subscribe, they still comment, they still share the videos and stuff like that. That is the spirit of the unity that we are talking about. We don't expect all the structures in parliament to go and sit down and determine how we can unite as Africans. We need to start doing it by our own small steps. Yes, we don't need those validation. We had this prominent call on the show with Dennis Boatwright yesterday, which actually open up again another scope of understanding to see what are the missed opportunities that this continent and its people have missed in the centuries and the decades. Yeah, what is it that we have always had the chance and never taken that chance? We've never grabbed on that opportunity to unite. And now we are seeing that the wave of unity again, Pan-Africanism, is coming around and catching every African. Now, what is the chance that we will not let go this time? We will not let go the idea of leaving these responsibilities to these structures. That is number one. We are not going to allow any institution on the continent to hijack the integrity and the unity of the African. So it means all of us have to get into work. We have to start research. There is no way that we will be talking about the symptoms. The symptoms, I said it. The symptoms mean we talk about the happenings, the occurrences. Now, what we need to do with our research teams and us as Africans is to get into the root cause. How did we get here? We cannot address the symptoms without going to, first of all, understand where is the root cause? Where is the problem coming from? Why is an African the way he is? And that is why when he was talking about the commissions, our focus is on judiciary or whatever thing. Those are not us. We would have gone into the cultural setup, or when we meet these committees, to say, do you take into consideration the indigenous laws that make the African, or you just take the judiciary or the parliament, and which laws are governing it, the Supreme Court of Ghana or the continent, or the Supreme Court of the United States, governing a whole people of integrity and value and culture and knowledge. Of course, now when we start getting into these root causes, then we start identifying. I really appreciate the session yesterday. The session yesterday made us take a timeline. We went back into a timeline. What went wrong? These are opportunities that we have, and we never took them into consideration. We never made use of them. Now, most of us, are we orientating too much on the structure and the leadership? What is our own engagement to say we see this going wrong? Yes, we can talk about the symptoms, but we are here to digest the root cause, do a research work, a classical work, and we put it. What we have seen on the Pan-African Daily TV and the followers, everybody is engaged. They have the will, and it's not just a political will, like they keep saying. These are Africans that bleed for the unity and the progress of Africa. And particularly, these are the ones that are not even looking for a paycheck. These are the ones that don't need any validation. These are the ones that don't even want to show their face on the camera, but they're doing marvelous contribution. They are so Pan-African in their blood, in their soul, in their spirit. They sleep, they dream, they wake up, they eat, they think Pan-African. Yeah, but because of these structural systems that we have always put our attention in, I think it has kind of put us to sleep, to make an African lose its validity in taking up a responsibility and the opportunity to define how we all collectively want Africa to be like. It is the challenge upon us and our generation, not to sit back now and complain. Yes, it is one point, but to step up the game like Dennis Bot, right? Like all of us, like any other person there looking forward to just do something, to do something. I am exceptionally applauding the young people on the continent, in the villages. You will not believe how much more these youths are awoke. You don't want to believe it a little bit. But it's if we are not receiving organization, groups, unions, and movements that are being regrouped every day on the continent, and we have them on the Pan-African Daily TV, reaching out to us. Oh, we just created a section of this. Oh, we just regroup ourselves. This is one of the biggest key factor to our unity. Groupings. When they start group, yes, they would have their own collective agenda. It looks as if we're still disunited. If we go even into our WhatsApp group, we see how people still have different, they're still distracted. But of course, they are there. I don't really bother a lot what they communicate, what the quarrels are, what the fights are, what the disagreements are, what the challenges are in this group. We have thousands of them. We have the Telegram group that is exploding. And then we have some that are just quiet, just only posting. But one big advantage is they are home. They're just in this group. They are together, even though they're doing different things. And I think that is the fundamental aspect that I can say we are growing. We are moving forward. We are on the right track. We are not sleeping. We are not just complaining. We are at work every time, and we are developing, and we are seeing the development, the growth. We are measuring, we are tracking. We are not just sitting and producing and YouTubing and just growing in numbers. No, we are actually also taking into consideration this growth in terms of our individuality and our personality. And I can only guarantee you that we are on the right track. If you look at this, the small time, the shortest time, we're not even up to a year on YouTube. We should be a year in the next coming weeks in June. But if you look at the growth, and if we have to put the scale over, And so we are not just coming here to discuss this topic. We also take a due diligence of what are the topics that we've been talking? How is the growth rate? Who are we reaching to? What is the repercussions, or what is the setback? What is the input that we're getting there? Are we growing? Are we losing focus? Are we just another talking show? Are we entertaining? What is it that people are focused on? So we did this survey and we came out with this certification of the Pan-African certification. It was a test. It was just a small symbol to say, how do an African feel honored when they are given a certificate and recognition that you are a Pan-African? How do they adore it? And from that small test, like I said, it was a test, the reactions were very, very good. We had a positive reaction. Number one, all Pan-Africans wanted a recognition. It means they are doing something and they want also to feel a part, inclusive into it. That was the number one factor. Number two, it just woke up some Pan-African that actually we had the spirit in the beginning, but because of different things and constraints, they went asleep. So when the certificates came out, they were like, oh, I also need one. I had also been here. So it kind of like rekindled that fire again into us. Number three, people are asking now, what is the way forward? How are we going to get that? And that's why I'm coming up to announce this very good move that we are working on to say, we are coming out with what is called the Sankofa Pan-African Award. It is going to be one of the biggest things that will happen in the history of Pan-Africanism and the African. Note it down. We're looking and talking in collaboration with other organizations to put forward this Sankofa Pan-African Award 2022. I don't want to give you a date yet because we're still looking at the date and even the location, but we already know that we should be meeting in Ghana 2022 for the Sankofa Pan-African Award. Now, what is the Sankofa Pan-African Award? We've seen in recent development, every other good thing, they have to fly our artists, our whoever, creative art, they are somewhere hidden in the museums out here. Freedom fighters like starting from Dr. Martin Luther King to Malcolm X, who has ever awarded them and where? But today we fly in private jets and we're happy because some people are getting some Grammys or some stuff out there. And you ask yourself, what contribution have they put out in the life of Pan-Africanism or in the life of the development of this continent as a people? It is on this note that we came out with the concept of the Sankofa Pan-African Award. For the first time in history, the African continent would get a recognition for every engagement, be it even the leaders on this continent. We are not going to disagree. It doesn't matter. We are in our internal home to say we will fix it in our home. And then whatever happens outside, we would do, we would talk about that later. But right now, we want to clean our home. We want to thank ourselves for whatever situation that we've been through. We want to recognize the effort, even just putting our pieces together. We want to recognize the effort of people that have risen up to just make a change, even though it never lasted. We want to recognize alma maters, even martyrs that were gone. Today, we're talking about the remise of the exhumption of the pieces of Patrice Emery Lumumba that would be taken back to the Democratic Republic of Congo to be given a befitting burial. This is what we are talking about. This is what the African continent and Africans should be shaky about. We know that the Marcus Garvey Institute and this structure, even though Dr. Marcus Garvey himself is not physically with us, but the spirit of Pan-Africanism and everything that he stood for is what all of us are profiting from today. Now, did that institution ever had a recognition from its own people for the work, apart from us talking every day about this that did not went right? Now, we still have, even since the past 100 years, people, volunteers that are pushing on that agenda. Most of them are being murdered, incarcerated, in prisons. Now, did the continent for one ever second rose up one day to say, hey, let's just gather and just celebrate our own unity without always saying that we are disunited? When are we going to celebrate even the legacy of Nkrumah? When are we going to celebrate the legacy of even a late Mugabe and all these martyrs that rose up? It is time for us not to only profane unity in terms of sitting and talking, but just doable things, practical unity things, unifying factors and products. And the Sankofa Award 2022 is going to be that symbolic gesture of a united people. How are we going to see that we're united? We already, like I keep telling it, but at the end of the day, we don't, because the way we feel, we talk more about the challenges, we talk more about what divides us than more what unites us. So I want to thank you so much for being a part of this. And yes, just keep on and look forward to everything that will be coming out to this award. What would be the criteria? What would be the nominees? And when we put out the voting out there, it's going to be online, worldwide, on the continent, in the diaspora. And so you would be required to vote and to say, yes, we are all partakers and recognitions of this. We've seen our professors come here. They've given us so much knowledge. Have they ever been awarded? No. And most of them, their work have been stolen, copyrighted, and is being plagiarized and everywhere. Have we ever said thank you? When is Africa going to start recognition? Just tell its people, thank you. Just thank you. So an award doesn't mean that people are going to get some billions and then that's going to change your life. No, it is the engagement and the sacrifice and the recognition of us just being in the space and time and doing what we're doing. Tomorrow, we want to get onto another topic. We want to touch the base with Nigeria a little bit on the political aspect. And so we'll be getting Timmy Frank, who is going to give us a political overview of the situation in Nigeria. We want to open up conversations on the Nigeria question. Yes, Timmy Frank has been the spokesman of the Buhari political party. And then after some disagreements or whatever, is now on the run because of the situation in Nigeria. And so we want to get an overview of what is it that a prominent spokesman of a whole government like Nigeria is on the run now for his life. Maybe what is the situation? We all know that Nigeria is actually facing some very, very huge challenges in and out. The petitions are all there, and the idea of creating and even changing the name Nigeria and renaming it. And then we have the Biafra question, we have the Yoruba Fulani question now, and then we also have, you know, the current situation like the NSAS that have been going on. We want to get a really deeper picture from the Nigerians themselves. So Timmy Frank is going to be live with us tomorrow, and Friday, Maponga Joshua and Dr. Susan Tata is going to be on Black Set. And we want to talk about the truth, knowing your truth, the book of Maponga and the way forward, and also projects that we are having. So we're looking forward to stream that session with Juliet Rian on the Pan-African Daily TV for a follow-up. Saturday, we also want to continue again with the Nigerian question. So we're going to get like 3-4 speakers here. I don't know whether we are going to host a Sunday special, because I'm reaching out to 2 prominent voices like we had last week to dwell on a very important topic, which I'm not announcing until it's confirmed. Yeah. Next week, we're going to do what we call the Patrice Emirate Lumumba Week. Now we want to start making too much positive noise. Yeah, that is all what the media is supposed to do. That's our job, not just a media for propaganda, but we have to make that noise. Remember how we pull out the Magufulication week. So we're also going to do the Lumbification week, yeah, which is coming up from Tuesday to Saturday. So we want to get keynote speakers from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and also from the diaspora. Okay, and so like we have to have indigenous Congolese, but we also want to get people that have been on in Congo and have experienced this. Why? Congo is one of the strategic turning points in the history of Africa. We all know it. We talk about Nigeria, we talk about Congo, and we see everybody's like, if Congo doesn't breed Africa, we never succeed. We've heard a couple of times King Maponga told us, actually, it was not the Berlin Conference, it was the Congo Treaty of 1884. That was the initial partition of Africa. So they just had to put it a Berlin Conference. Now, what does Berlin Conference has to do? Did we say the partition of Africa? No. So it has to be a table, an agenda upon which the conference held. Exactly like we're talking about the Pan-African Parliament today. What was the agenda? A parliament does just sit and we talk about the members that were sitting. What was the agenda? Now we know the agenda of Berlin 1884 was the Congo Treaty. So Congo has been strategic from time immemorial up to today. But now the legacy of Patrice Emery Lumumba, which was incarcerated and murdered, and the remains are going to be taken under the patronage of the Excellency of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is currently the AU chair for the next 4 years. So this is an historical event. We don't want to miss it. We don't want to miss anything about it. So we're going to be getting like Professor Obaenga, Theophile, who is actually championing also the cause of this exemption. We have to get big voices out there that have been on the movement for long. They're going to be explaining this whole procedure to us, but also we want to get the legacy of Patrice Emery Lumumba and it's real. So it's like we are witnessing the official burial of this hero that once passed away. And if we start doing this, what about the Marcus Garveys? What about the Martin Luther King? What about the Malcolm X? We know about the Malcolm X Day. So what about start putting these things? So the spirit of our ancestors have never left us. They will never leave us. They are with us today, tomorrow, and forever. So we are thanking you all to be a part of this event that will be unfolding. They will give us particularly how the event will be unfolding, what does it mean, and we see Congolese and Africans already, as we throw the news out there and say, not even his hair should remain in Belgium. What does that mean for an African? Not even his hair, yeah, not even his fingernail. We want every part of him back home to reconcile with his ancestors. He should come back in full form the way he was. So that is what is actually going on the continent. And of course, if we don't push this agenda on the Pan-African Daily TV, it is just going to be another solemn occasion like the murder of our Africans or events that are happening, and we are looking forward for a particular structure to come out and tell us what to do. No, it is time for us to collectively pick it up and make it right. So I look forward to all Congolese that will be receiving this prophet home. I look forward to Africans worldwide that would be saying, at last, home at last. Welcome home, our hero. Welcome to join your ancestors. Yeah, that is the right place. And we know that he would rest in peace. He would continue to rest in power and to even manifest better than being in a foreign land where you cannot even talk with your neighbors at the graveyard, right? So that is the point. I want to thank all of you. And what was the word that I learned today is mandase. Mandase means thank you so much. And akwaba means welcome again tomorrow on this session with Timmy Frank. Thank you so much and good night. We see us tomorrow. Bye-bye.